Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Men's Corner. Of course, today, as always, got my main apple scrapper right there. He is the host here, Big Adrian. We call him Six, and you know why. He's the man with the deep voice and all that stuff there. I am your co-host, Faheem, and we'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Men's Corner. The Men's Corner brought to you by the Men's Corner Facebook Live, Men's Corner DMV, on Instagram, as well as on YouTube. We're powered by DJ Glam, produced by BeeSting Media, with site sponsored by Reality Based Training. 8181 Professional Place, Hyattsville, Maryland, Suite 112, 240-714-3813. That's the number for Reality Based Training if you want to utilize their services. So hey, as you all know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and as we've always done in the past, and we're doing it, keeping with the tradition, bringing you some of the most outstanding guests who have had personal experiences and things of that nature with domestic violence. And so tonight will be no different than what we've done before. So I'm going to let my main apple scrapper, Adrian, introduce our guest tonight.
Oh,
we're going to dive right on in. Come on, big fella.
We got the great Pamela Hobbs in here tonight, huh?
Yes, indeed. We got some clapping music going on and all that.
Yeah, we got a real touching topic here. And I want to thank you for gracing us with your presence and being willing to talk about this tough conversation.
Thank you for the platform.
Yeah, I already got my paper towel too, you know, be prepared this week in case I need to shed a tear.
You're not shedding any tears, okay? You're not shedding tears.
This the Men's Corner. We cry on here. We have no problem. There's nothing wrong with our manhood on here. None of us. We crack a lot of jokes, but we real manly.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You from around here?
Well, I'm from Clinton, Maryland. I grew up in Clinton, Maryland, and I'm basically in the DMV area throughout my adult life. Post-marriage, my children and I'm a mother of 4, grandmother of 3, and we've moved around, but basically in the DMV area. So.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, you don't like nobody grandma, but you know what? Say don't crack it now. Don't crack out. Yeah, don't crack. So I'm rocking with it right there.
It is,
So how did you get into this domestic violence month tradition?
Purple down and all
sharing your story.
Sharing my story.
Yeah.
So, well, I was in an abusive marriage, which started out as an abusive relationship. Ooh. So a lot of people, think that you just, a lot of times we ignore warning signs that an abuser may impose. It could be, because we of course we know abuse comes in many forms, not just physical, and a lot of the majority of my abuse was emotional and verbal. So there was some physical aspects of it. Oh, let me also touch on this one, the financial piece, the financial abuse. So that's another way that abusers try to maintain control of their victims, is the financial piece. Because like I said, I'm a mother of 4, so we have 4 children together. So I experienced, like I said, abuse as we were dating. And when you're in love, you think, oh, okay, this person is going to change, or you think that you can change a person. And we ultimately got married, and we had a couple more children. And the abuse was still prevalent in our home. And I come from a 2-parent household, so we didn't believe in, divorce or single parenthood. So I was more ashamed of having to become a single parent. And so I just kept it quiet. I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed. just feelings of guilt. So it made it very challenging for me because I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't share, things. And my abuser at that time, he pretty much alienated me from family and close friends. So when I truly needed help, I didn't have the support that you would normally get from your family. So that was his ultimate mission and goal.
So to separate you from the
Absolutely.
thing that you were close
Absolutely. Because actually our home that we had purchased, I lived like literally 5 minutes from my parents. So, but we had an estranged relationship. So that was his ultimate goal, was to keep me alienated from my family and close friends. So that was the purpose, and pretty much just stripping me of my self-esteem. Nobody's gonna want you with 4 kids and things like that. So
Yeah,
and I believed it. I believed it.
I've heard those type of things before. But
Absolutely.
you said something that I've never heard before when you said financial.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
Well, financial abuse, I'm going to share this story. Okay, so once I did get to a point where I was able to leave for good, because I left a couple of times, and of course I went back because of the financial abuse, because the whole child support process, it's this time. You just don't go in and file and you get some money, some assistance right away. So I would always end up going back, and at that time the abuse would get worse because I guess he felt like, you back. So the abuse would get worse, and so the financial piece, I used to tell people, my ex-husband is $150,000 in arrears, and they didn't believe me, and I'm like, and I would show like, look, this is how much he owes. So you figure, he started at $20,000 in arrears. So he never assisted with the kids. So that's part of financial abuse. Or you can experience financial abuse within the home, whereas if that person is the chief breadwinner and they ration out funds, whereas you can only go to the grocery store, and that was the thing. We met, my ex-husband and I, we met at work, and it was encouraged that go home, stay home, take care of the kids, which I wanted to do anyway. That was part of what I didn't complain. Yeah. So, it was like that was a great opportunity for me to, spend time with my kids, but I gave up all of my financial resources.
So it's like that old school dynamics and old school teachings.
Yeah. And there was no joint account. It was his account. There was no joint account. So the account that we were supposed to have together, he just had total access and control of the account. So and
it's interesting that you use that word control, because the access is one thing, but particularly when we start talking about violence and things of that nature, right, domestic violence, it's typically, people talk a lot about just wanting
control.
To have control.
That's
the perpetrator
all it is.
Wants to establish control of their situation.
And once they control your mind, the physical, that's just the remnants of the mind control. So that's the thing. The biggest thing is to strip you of your self-esteem, alienate you from anyone or any support that you could potentially seek out. And that's where it pretty much starts.
Yeah. So that mental abuse that goes. What was it? Well, I don't necessarily want to go into. Well, say your situation. Was it more mental than physical, or which one came first? Because a lot of people in relationships where they don't even recognize the mental abuse,
that's what I'm trying to think.
And they only recognize that physical because it's hands on, but they didn't see
Right.
the perpetuated mental abuse.
And I'm gonna speak on that, and then I'm gonna also add the residual remnants from that, because in turn you become a mental abuser and not even know it. So the mental abuse was how that started. I'm going to say honestly, I don't really remember any particular instance as far as the mental abuse, but like I said, the physical did start prior to it. It came into play throughout the whole time we were together. And in turn, and I would be remiss if I didn't speak on this part, I in turn became an abuser. We all say hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Simple. And you think you're a victim, that you can't perpetrate abuse on someone else, whether it's your kids or someone, another. You try to, and I always tell people, until you seek some type of healing, professional healing, you still taking you to the next relationship, the next friendship, the next situation. You are still taking you and all of that baggage, all of that hurt, all of that trauma. It goes with you. It just doesn't disappear because you're out of it, months or years out of it. It just doesn't fall off, and it doesn't disappear. So I had to get into counseling, and I was in counseling for a long time. And because like I said, I would get into relationships, and I would just lash out. If things didn't go my way, I would have like flashbacks of trauma and being hurt, and I would just go berserk.
And this is you trying to move ahead, just move on from what you were involved in, and now the next person that comes along may get some of this backlash.
Absolutely, and they would.
Yeah, but it's not. Is it a conscious intention to do that?
It's not. Okay, I can't say that it's not conscious, because you want to control the narrative, because you lost control and you've been in that abusive situation where you had no say, you had no control over anything. So anything that remotely would resemble, whereas you could not control the relationship or the narrative of how things, and I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. Right. Be relationship with a family member or a friend.
Or at work.
Exactly. It's like, she's so nice. But then at times I would just go off because things, wasn't going my way. So that's the effects of, abuse. And I tell people all the time, and it was told to me, and I didn't understand what the lady was saying. These women, they go through abuse, and you think you're good, you smiling, you think you living your best life, and you started another relationship, and maybe even started an organization to help other people. But until you get into some type of therapy, professional therapy, to promote healing, you're gonna have broken relationships throughout your life, because you still taking you to the next everywhere you go. Everywhere, like you said, in the workplace, in an intimate relationship, and with family members as well.
How did you get to even walk the aisle with all of this on your shoulders? I think we moved a little quick.
Great question.
Right. So I think it was mainly my kids.
Okay.
Seeing the effects that it had on them, and how the trauma that they endured, it was tremendous. And it was not just the trauma that they had experienced in the home. It was the trauma in and out of homeless shelters and moving. We moved one time. It was maybe like immediately after I left my ex-husband. My children were in one fiscal year, I'm gonna say 5 or 6 schools.
And this was before the wedding?
Before,
or after?
After.
After the wedding. Mm-hmm. So how did you walk that out with all of this?
Okay.
How y'all planned the wedding?
I did not, and I'm gonna be honest. I did not want to be a single mom. I did not. I wanted to save face, and I wanted to have, I can't speak for most women. We've always had this fairy tale. We get married, we have kids, we buy a house, and we live happily ever after. And life doesn't go that way. So that was my thing. So we had children prior to our marriage, and I wanted to live the fairy tale life. You get married and you think that you could love a person or treat a person a certain way and they'll reciprocate. And it doesn't necessarily go that way, because there again, hurt people. And there are so many, since this is black men, so there are so many black men in our community that are dealing with past sexual abuse trauma, child abuse trauma. And unlike us as women, we have so many outlets where we can freely bring it into the forefront. But men are more inclined to suppress those traumas of childhood. And that's what I was dealing with my ex-husband. Not saying that he had been sexually abused, but there was some level of trauma for a person to be that way. And so at that point, I empathized with him, and I still empathize with him.
Yeah, him and I speak a lot on, and that's how we got started with this. That's how we paired up to do this show. A lot of men don't have the outlet of going to have a real conversation. One, we don't trust one another, and two, we think somebody's going to spill the beans.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So those things that we struggle with, and then we carry to you guys.
Exactly.
And y'all want to make us all shiny and new.
Right.
When we're not.
Or nurse you guys, because we're nurturers. Women are nurturers.
Right.
That's just natural. That's our natural nature. And like you said, that's something that's big in the black community. We all know Uncle so-and-so, don't go near him. He's why? We always want to brush stuff under the rug instead of bringing it to the forefront. Or so-and-so gets beat, in her home, but that's just them. That's just what they go. No, that's not normal. That's not healthy.
Right.
And that creates generational dysfunction.
Right. And that's what happens in our house.
Exactly. It stays in
our house, and we'll take care of it. However, it's been generational. Movements going on here.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy. Now you said save face. Well, let me go back, because you talked about the stigma attached to being a single mom and not wanting to be the single mom, and then sort of the save face. I guess the first question is, what are some of the stigmas attached to being a single mom that you were trying to run away from? And then the second question would be, who would you save your face for?
The public, family, mainly family. I didn't want to feel like I was a failure. I wanted to be like everyone else, whereas they had mom, dad, and husband, wife, and the children, and the cars in the driveway. That was part of the saving face that you're talking about. And the stigmas, especially us as black women, there's already that stigma of, we're all, especially with multiple children. And I would be so self-conscious. Like if I was in a grocery store with my kids, I wanted to make sure that I had my wedding ring on, because I was just so self-conscious of being, put in that.
She's their mother with all them children, and they got 20 different fathers and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So she's out there, and that's not even.
And it's not just from other races; it's from our own people. Yeah. So we're so judgmental. Society can be so judgmental, whereas a woman may be willing to stay in a situation just to save face or to not be judged, feel as though she's being judged. So, and then a lot of times when you do get to a breaking point, and I'm going to speak for me, when I got to a breaking point and I started opening up, people didn't want to believe me.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what I was
it was
gonna ask, was there a family
just
member?
like, you know what, I'm not going to share.
Yeah, because you know, normally, you know, in most families, there's always a family member who sits back, studies and observes everything that's going on, even when you're not watching.
Absolutely.
Was there ever a family member to say to you, I see what you're doing, Pam, I understand where you are, but he's not the one for the long haul because something's just not right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so what was that dynamics like?
So,
that's like that grandma say, you know, baby.
and actually it wasn't a grandma. This was a cousin.
Yeah,
This was a cousin, and we're the same age.
Right.
And I always, you know, just thank her to this day. And it's he had moved us to North Carolina. That's where he's from. And this was one of the times I had returned back home, and you know, of course, out of state. That's, you know, so that was the thing. So as soon as we got to North Carolina, that day, the North Carolina police were at our house. So that just started a whole nother train. And like I said, I don't have any family there. His family was from there. So it was like, okay, what am I going to do? And my kids were babies. Stayed there for about maybe 3 months, and I would call back home, and I had this one particular cousin that I would call and talk to, and she called another one of my cousins, and she was struggling. She was a single mom. She had 2 kids of her own at the time. She called me and she said, look, he knows that you don't have family support. Come home, you can stay here, bring the kids, and just be done with it. So we were scheduled to go to court that particular day. So once I went to court, and I knew that they had him. I came home, I rented a U-Haul, I packed up all of our stuff, I sold some stuff, I pawned some stuff, I called the neighbors, I was giving some stuff away. I just wanted to get out of there. Yeah. So they helped me. Like I said, I didn't really know them for that long, but they helped me load the car. And I never forget, this is my cousin Dawn, thank you. But it was me and my kid, my four babies were on the front seat of that U-Haul, and we just pushed it all the way to Maryland. When I got to her house, we all stayed in a full-size bed, but we did it, we made it. So, she just had a 2-bedroom townhouse.
Kudos to your cousin.
Yeah.
Kudos to your cousin.
So getting to for me to be sitting here today, I'm just so blessed, so humble, and so thankful. But I will have to add this, and as far as men, family members, when you have a family member, that could be your cousin or your uncle, it's not okay. Just because it's your family member. Right. It's not okay. Right. Because it's your brother that's doing the abusing. It's not okay because it's your nephew that's doing the abusing. It's just not okay. Hold your family members, your men friends accountable for their actions. It's not okay. And I see that so many times. You know, like I said, I was there, and I know they're gonna see it, but I was there with his family, and they seen him. You know, they would come to our house, and nobody helped me.
So I can speak on that because what it is that they have to fit in with that person, and I can't go against.
Wrong is wrong.
Right. No, I'm clear on what you're saying, but this is what I don't call them men. I call them dudes or boys.
Right.
Because what we don't do is hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
Hell, him and I hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
Like we've had a show, we talk. I'm like, why you ain't taking
healthy relationships.
Why you ain't taking none of your
Those
kids?
are healthy,
We was on the show with y'all.
That's right. Because that helps you as individuals grow. So we can't just sit around, oh, because that's so-and-so. I'm not gonna pull them up. No, right is right and wrong is wrong. If you see something, say something.
And that's that level of accountability. And it's great you said that. That's a nice segue into a nice 2-minute break here, so we can catch our breath, get some tea in here.
Yes.
And we'll come right back. So thank you and welcome to the Men's Corner again. We're talking here to Pamela Hawk, and we're talking domestic violence, a personal experience. We'll be right back at you in 2.
Stay with us, people. Stay with us.
Do you ever imagine a burglar breaking into your home and stealing your valuables, damaging your property, or hurting your loved ones? Of course not. The reason why most burglaries occur is because the victim was not protected. Don't be the victim.
Home security systems were designed to keep you, your family, and your premises safe from a wide range of dangerous scenarios. This is an area Unlimited Connect excels. Our highly trained and courteous professionals will respond in time and install your HD security camera in no time. And the best part? Every installation comes with a guaranteed 1-year warranty. And we also offer weekly specials and major discounts. What more can you ask for? Call us today for a free estimate at 202-702-6700 or visit us at www.unlimitedconnect.com.
So again, welcome back, and as we said before, we're sitting here talking to Ms. Pamela Hawk regarding domestic violence, and let me just give you a little something here. We talk about the definition of domestic violence, which is violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or partner. And there's some national statistics that are going. They say domestic violence leads to more than 30,000 deaths a year worldwide. New Zealand is allegedly the highest, has the highest rate of reported intimate partner violence. And they break this thing down, the worldwide thing, by different age groups from 18 to 25 amongst the women with their first experience. Between the ages of 18 to 24, 38% of the women will experience domestic violence for the first time. Between the ages of 11 and 17, 22%. 35 to 44, the numbers go down dramatically to like 6.8%. And then 45 and plus, 2.5%. Now, the first experience amongst men, 18 to 24, 47.1% will experience some type of domestic violence between the ages of 18 and 24. Between 25 and 34, 30%, and 11 to 17, 15%, 35 to 44, 10%, and then 45 and over, 5.5% of the men will experience that.
So men rates are higher.
Men rates get higher as they appear to get a little older, 45 and older than their counterparts, which may be, I'm just thinking one of the causal factors may be that the women aren't going to let a man do anything to them once they get there. I've already been through it. So if you think about money, but if you think about striking me, I'm gonna strike first. And then some men at that age, like, I'm gonna call the police. But now here's interesting. I'm gonna call police on you. But they say, interestingly enough, police officers, when I did some research on who has the highest rates in terms of occupation.
Yeah, I believe it.
Police officers has the highest rate of abuse. Say 40% of their family members of officers have experienced some type of domestic violence, whether it's harassment, stalking, or homicide.
I've heard that.
So it's a very interesting piece. And again, you know, you were talking about accountability before we left, and you know, Six and I always talk about that, holding each other accountable, being transparent with it, and just being brutally honest, and then going on with it. You know, so from that particular point, we like to say right now, if there's anybody out there, man, you putting your hands on the sisters, man, cut that out. That ain't cool at all. And if I see you putting your hands on sisters, see, Six and I, one of the people, we don't have a problem with going, if I see you putting your hands on a sister, you're going to be rumbling me.
Right.
Because that's just how it is.
Right.
Now, the problem with that is,
you
be rumbling us, we getting involved in it, trying to stop it, and then we turn around a week later.
Together.
There y'all go. Now, me and dude beefing, because I jumped in his business.
And that's how a lot of family members are. That's how a lot of family members think. It's like, oh, I'm not dealing with him because she's gonna be back with him. the next week. So that's how a lot of that's why a lot of male family members don't don't get involved.
Yeah.
So and that accountability piece to me is key. And I still say for the men as well, get into some type of therapy.
Yeah.
What's the big stigma, over the whole mental health piece and
we don't believe
black
nothing is wrong with us.
Right, I get it.
So when you have let's say barbershop, let's use a barbershop.
Right.
You have a barbershop, so let's say it's 4 barbers and 20 customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's 24 people.
Mm-hmm.
You may have 1 or 2 people speaking against what the other 20 are talking about.
Right.
So now you're alienated.
Yeah.
Your voice is not even heard
minority
anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening with us in groups. And then if you do speak against it, you're pushed out, or you're like, I'm not even dealing with them because they tripping.
Mm-hmm.
When you should be standing there rumbling and fighting that fight, but you get worn out.
When you say speaking against what?
Anything incorrect with, let's say, the violence against a woman,
right?
Or being fluke in the community, anything that we supposed to speak against, because we talk on this thing about, a lot of us play with the word love and friend, right? So that plays a part in relationships. We say we are friends and we boys, but we can't speak against what that guy says and not be offended by it.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we do say something, we are offended, so we tend to spread ourselves away from it because you're holding me accountable.
Right.
So it's the same thing.
But that stunts growth within that individual.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, but like I said, I'm not just here to male bash, because there's women. Just as we have the domestic violence, you have teen dating violence. In reference to a lot of young girls are being abused by their boyfriends and
their girlfriends. Same sex abuse.
Because people don't realize.
Because people jump up out of the relationship.
Exactly.
The heterosexual relationship saying,
right, I can't.
Maybe I had something better here.
And then that community is smaller, so it's not like there's a plethora of if I'm a gay woman and I'm in a gay relationship, there's not a plethora of other gay women. So the control is going to be a little more harsh when it comes to the same sex.
Right.
So it's like, and then there are girls that are abusing the boys. I had to check my daughter on that.
Yeah.
Recently, and it was referenced over. He didn't call me to tell me he was at. He's why does he have to call? Who's calling? Because he's a whole individual. He doesn't have to call you to tell you where he was at. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
So like there are certain things that we don't see as abusive. They're abusive. Trying to control the situation.
So you caught that. So riddle me this.
She beat me down, but you just don't. Okay.
So you caught that. So give us the people that's watching and Faheem some scenarios of seeing these things in people.
Okay, seeing what abusive traits
in people.
Oh, okay. Just like one was just as I just said.
Right. You didn't call when you got where you was going.
Yeah. I've noticed other things. She's my daughter, so I can speak on it. Yeah, that's not. I don't care who it is. It's not cool.
Okay. So.
Another one being, like I said, I'm gonna speak on myself. I'm gonna use myself for an example. In a relationship, and you thinking everything is good until things aren't good, and you just lash out and become extremely verbally abusive, and then you just think, oh, that's just me, that's just how I go. But that's abuse. That's abuse, ladies. That's abuse. So I don't just look at men as being perpetrators of abuse. Like I said, I have been a perpetrator of abuse, and that's the only way that I can invoke any type of healing or healthy relationships in my future. Is to be real with myself.
So when you see him, do you address him?
address it within myself or with other people?
Yourself, your friends, your family.
Absolutely. And whether they take heed, that's on them, because you still stuck with you.
Are you still sensitive to that matter? Like when you said it triggers anything in you?
It does. It does. If I'm out and I see a male yelling or physically abusing a woman, it does.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is when you talk specifically like passivity, men who are somewhat passive, not real aggressive. It's just not in their nature. They weren't brought up that kind of way. They don't speak aggressive or none of that.
Right.
It seems like women take total advantage of that and be like, oh man, he's soft. He don't do nothing. He's a sucker for real. Right. Okay, so why you with him? Because you know you can basically control that
situation.
But then you holler for a thug guy.
Right, and then
when the thug guy bring you thuggish mentality and become abusive, it's like, oh, this. But you didn't want Mr. Passive over here.
Right. In other words, Mr. Nice Guy.
Mr. Nice Guy. He's too nice, Mom. He's too nice, Dad. You know.
That was me.
Nice. You know. I don't.
Okay, now coming off. Okay, that was you.
Yeah, he's too nice.
You had the nice. Okay.
That was me.
So you shut down a nice dude like a thuggish rugged.
Of course. That's just sometimes to be our name.
Because in the Nice Guy, you didn't see a
masculinity,
a protective spirit that I need somebody around me that at least gives the image that they're going to be able to protect.
Look, my boyfriend about to come, so what we doing?
Yeah.
And I need you to be scared. so my husband about to come. He's about to get down.
So was that the wrong mentality of it all?
It is. It really is. It really is.
So because we're this nice person to have this soft voice, that means I'm not speaking for me. I don't even fit the criteria. I'm just asking the question for them type of dudes.
You said for those type of dudes.
Yeah, I'm a big teddy bear. So I ain't going to act like I'm no big thug or nothing, but so I'm just asking for the dudes that speak soft and they real laid back. How do you guys how can they approach a woman that wants that side?
No, I don't think any woman wants to be abused.
No, I ain't said abused, this is a big thug.
Not necessarily a thug, but just with, walk with some authority.
Okay.
Yeah, walk with some authority.
So authority sometimes don't come with sometimes authority don't come with the romantic side.
That is true. That is so true.
Right.
So I mean,
so how do you work with that?
We get into a whole nother subject. Because if we talk about just relationships in general, we're not going to get everything across the board. Just don't beat me, just don't cheat, and just don't lie. Anything else I can work with.
Don't cheat, don't beat me, don't lie. Okay, I'm just asking for the soft voice, brother.
So and you know what's crazy is that I have to take the mask off to give this expression. There's a difference in being a guy and then being
so is that a trait of
the abuse? That's like that mental abuse. Instead, me doing it with the eyes, or doing it with the facial expression. Like you say something, I know
women and men get that face. So is that a form of is that a form as well?
Okay, so what I didn't share was I had witnessed it. Not in my home, but with my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, and we would go over their house as children, and my grandfather would beat my grandma, and so this is where the mentality came. Okay. So my grandma, she worked a part-time job. Forgive me, Grandma, she's still living. Share your story, but she worked a part-time job, and my grandfather was the head of the household. He took care of all the bills. So in my mind, as long as the man is taking care of the household, everything is paid for. And in all sincerity, if our house didn't go into foreclosure, I wouldn't have lied.
Now that's big, and I
would not have lied.
That's big.
So that's what kept you the house. Without the house,
But not
that would push you on away from the relationship.
But that's a form of protection.
It factored in.
Right, you weren't going to be homeless. And then you got the kids to think about.
Right, exactly.
So you were willing to continue to take on the abuse, mental and physical abuse, for the sake of the kids to have a place to lay their head, or was it
the
pride? But maybe the pride that you have is saying, I can't let nobody outside this family know what's really going on with us. I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to stick around.
Right.
So what was that? What was that final straw? The final straw
when
to say,
house got in front of foreclosure.
Oh, well, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because like I said, still to this day.
That was your way to escape now.
Yeah.
House is in foreclosure. I can't be here. I got to go somewhere.
No. Well, we were going to go to his mom's until we got everything situated, and I'm like, no, you're not going to do this and this and this and that to me, and we have to move. You can't even.
But listen to what you just said. You just said we were going to go to his mom.
No, that was his plan.
Oh, his plan was to go to mom. You was like, I ain't doing that.
No, because that's where the nice guy came. No, you can't. That's just not. That's not how I was brought up.
So when y'all moved, how did you explain it to the kids?
When I left,
when you finally left and you was with the kids, how did you express all of that big bowl of what was going on for years?
They were little. My youngest was 2, so they were all 2 years apart. So 2, 4, 6, and the oldest was 8. Okay. So honestly, there was just so much going on. I didn't have time to explain because I had become head of household and I had to carry 5 people on my back, and I did that for years.
So pause
by
for a
myself.
second. You said you just checked your daughter the other day on that. So we had a 13-year-old in here that absorbed the pain from his mom of breast cancer 4 times. What I said to her and I share with you is, whether you express it to your kids or not, they know what you're going through.
Absolutely.
They feel your spirit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. I believe energy and spirit are transferable. I get that.
Yes.
So that was one of my main reasons for, I knew I had to get it together. Right. But physically, financially, it took a minute.
Are they your composition of your children? They're all girls, or?
I have 3 girls and a boy.
And who's the oldest?
The boy's the oldest.
The boy's the oldest. So now we're hoping and praying that any experiences that he may have had, any visual experiences of, even if he never saw physical contact, seeing you unhappy, seeing you sad or crying, and not knowing what's going on. Eventually, the older you get, you start to recognize that was a result of my dad.
Right.
How is his relationship with his father?
Actually, they have a decent relationship. So the older two kind of went with my ex-husband, and I'm pretty much as they got older.
Right.
So they were like, when they became teens, it was just all out. Everybody wanted to do their thing. I had to work 2 jobs. Yeah. I couldn't be everywhere. So my mentality, if you want to go somewhere, you feel as though you want to be somewhere else, you can go. And my son went with my ex-husband, and he had him for a couple of months, and then he ended up sending him back. And then my daughter, she went to live with my ex-husband, but he was in and out because, like I said, he was so far in arrears. They would pick him up and they would lock him up, and so
do a nice little 30 days and come on
and
back
that's exactly
and then you still can cut into the 150. So when they every year political time come around,
exactly,
and bring them all in here again. Let's lock everybody up. The old X amount.
And that's exactly what they did, because I stayed on it with the state of Maryland. I was on it. I would write letters and stuff like that. So like I was sharing with I to this day I get child support, and my kids are grown and out the house, empty nester, gone. So I still get child support. And like I said, that was part of the financial abuse. But I'm still standing. I'm okay. So it really, I said, most importantly, it hurt the children more than it hurt the intention of hurting me. So
moving forward, like you speak at engagement, you speak to other women about this. How do you get through those conversations without shedding tears? Because I thought we was gonna be in this blink time, but you made it so calm and
because
warm.
I had to be so strong for so long. I didn't have time to. I literally did not have time to cry. Or even when I would get a moment and I just think like, oh my God, things are just so messed up. I could only cry for like a limited time because I had to take care of my kids. And then I had to take care of myself because we as women, we always say, oh, my kids come first. I'm one of those people that understand and realize I got to make sure I'm okay and I'm up to par to be able to adequately take care of them. And even now to this day, I still have to keep my head above water to make sure that they're straight.
You're a strong joker. Because one, you carry the burden of 4 kids, right? And you're still dealing with that. And to push through, and to get to this point, and to be able to tell your story, is huge in a whole lot of components. Because one, you got to protect your kids away from what was going on. You had to fight with your family indirectly because you didn't want to be embarrassed, and then his family watching it and ain't doing a damn thing. Like all that to endure and to be here is incredible. Like I don't think you pat yourself on the back enough.
Don't make me cry. That's
reality,
because you know, 4 kids, and then to hear over and over, these kids, ain't nobody gonna take you with 4 kids.
That's exactly how family.
There's some great stuff.
You married him. You married him. Like you married him.
And the kids, I think what people fail to realize is that children grow older, and when they become adults, they retain a lot of information, as Six said earlier, that you don't even think they're paying attention to. They retain that information, but they're not going to always be children. So you gotta be, if you are an abuser and you're doing this stuff, you shouldn't be doing it at all. It's an abomination if you're doing it. You should not be doing it. And if you're doing it and you're doing it in front of the children, that's even more so out of order. Because now these kids are growing up and watching this dynamic. I'm gonna tell you something that bothers me when I talk to guys who have charges with domestic violence and they've been abusing women and things. And I always say, man, have you all watched movies where you see a slave owner literally beating a sister, beating a female slave with a whip, just constantly beating her? I was watching the other day Django Unchained. And that part where that slave owner was beating, I guess her name, Carrie, whatever name, was beating her. And I just broke down and cried because I'm like, I can't even imagine somebody beating my sister, my mother, my auntie, any female in that manner, and I'm there. You're gonna have to kill me. So the point I'm making is, where the hell do we get off as men putting our damn hands on our queens like that? They've been historically, ancestrally, they've been through enough of that. So we should never be going that route. And if you doing that, man, and you consciously do, you're a soft coward type of joker. And you, as you said, you need to get some help. Check yourself in. And the brothers that's in people's lives need to really start handling that. Because I know in my family tree, we not going for none of that. Somebody going to jail.
Because you're just as guilty if you just standing by and you're not doing anything. So that's paramount as far as the whole domestic violence.
Because it's not reported though, it goes swept under the rug. So it's hard for us to hold each other accountable when that extra party don't hold them people accountable.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So sometimes authority have to hold jokers accountable. It's sad because we called ourselves friends and homies and family members.
Right.
But we still won't do it.
Right, and that's one of the biggest things. It's even now with dealing with victims. I'm not even talking about survivors. With people that are in abusive situations, you know, I'll get a call. I got somebody that's in a situation, and then I'll talk to them, and you can literally hear in their voice they're not ready to leave. So I mean, as an advocate, as a survivor, you can share all the resources and offer the help. But if a person is not ready to leave themselves, you're wasting your time. I'm not gonna say you're wasting your time by offering the resources, but they're not gonna leave until they're ready.
So have you ever got any calls from men?
I've heard stories from men.
Okay.
I haven't had any situations where they actually needed help, but I do hear men that I know personally have said, you know, this is what happened, you know, my wife or my ex-wife. And for a long time, I had never heard of men being abused, but it's prevalent, men being in abusive situations. So
yeah. I've literally had some guys that say they've gone to the police station to report abuse on their significant
other. And they turn
other.
them away.
And the guys are literally looking at them like, man, you for real, man.
Yeah.
And so I had one guy told me, say, I told the officer, now if she had come up here, you guys would have escorted her back down to the house to lock me up.
Right.
But I come up here, you didn't even offer an escort to go back down there to see what was going on. So
men get murdered as well. Yeah. I had a friend of my mom's. He was murdered by his girlfriend. Yeah, she stabbed him to death. Yep, and this was a young guy. Yeah. So I mean, there are, just as women are murdered by intimate partners or husbands, men are being murdered as well.
So if you had to offer your top 3 ways to leave an abusive relationship and get some help, what would be your top 3 ways to leave? Because people say, I can't leave. I don't. Okay. Well, can you offer us? Just it may not be your top 3, but the 3 that come off
the top of my head. Yeah. I would say find someone that you trust, that you can confide in, and that would be your safe place. Meaning you could call that person at any time of the day, any time of the night. Come get you, pick you up. You need a safe person that's not gonna share your whereabouts with your abusers, because a lot of times you think family is family. A lot of times your family will sell you out just for the sake of, oh, you need to go on back with him and deal with that. Right. So find a safe person that you trust. 1. 2, have a plan. A couple times I left, I didn't have a plan. I just knew I wanted to leave, but it's a challenge when you're trying to leave, and especially when kids are involved. Have a plan in mind, whereas you have your personal ID, your birth certificates, have them set aside, because you're going to need that when you're moving from, that place where you're in imminent danger to a safe house. So, and the third one would be keep in mind that once a person is abusive towards you, it's not likely that they're going to change. So just knowing that it's not going to get better as far as an abusive situation, and there's a ton of resources out there. Like I said, I started an organization 10 years ago, and that's my sole mission and sole purpose, is to help other people get through what I've gone through.
Give them a shout out.
What's the name of it?
SerenitysDoor.org, and there's a ton of resources, and they go statewide. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and my website is serenitiesdoor.org.
Serenity's Door.
And we have resources. We have diapers, we have clothing. monetary funding is kind of low right now, but like I said, if you need help, you can call me. My contact information is on my website, serenitysdoor.com. My email, phawk@serenitysdoor.org. I'm sorry, not .com, .org.
So serenitysdoor.org?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
That's good.
put that on the
Yeah.
And if you know anyone that, we're doing a diaper drive, so if you know anyone in need of diapers, also shoot me a DM, shoot me an email. And we do deliveries on Christmas Eve, and we have Santa Claus, and we dress up and all of that
That's
fun
good.
stuff.
And the other thing is, if those of you go to serenitysdoor.org for some assistance, and you can also go to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE, or you can visit www.thehotline.org as well. But we want to push you towards serenitysdoor.org, so that the more of you coming to her receiving the help, the easier it is for her to get funding and backing to help more people. So we can keep that thing. It's almost like the difference between a national election and a local election. Where we want to use our local resources so that they can ask out to the national.
But either or is fine. Just reach out. Yeah, just reach out. Or if you know of someone that may be in an abusive situation, or you may not know for sure, and you had to have an idea, because a lot of times you'll see little hints or you might have a suspicion that someone maybe is being abused, and you don't know for sure, and you don't know how to approach the situation. So there's scenarios on the website, whereas how you talk to a friend that may be being abused. Yeah, so
or someone that's abusing somebody, and you gotta pull them and have that conversation.
Exactly.
We'll get Ms. Davis to put it on our Facebook. Where you give her the list of the samples.
Okay,
yeah. She take care of that. Put it on Facebook. I'm talking about Instagram. So we're gonna close out. We appreciate you coming. Like that was tough. I ain't saying like. I was hoping you didn't cry because I had my tissue ready. I had two of them actually.
One was for me, one was for you.
We was ready today.
I appreciate it.
Last time he had to run out the office. I wasn't getting caught slipping today.
We got a call.
Trust me, I've done enough crying. I've done enough.
We got a Miss.
I cry when I have to.
Yeah, we have a Miss Carla Davis that said follow at Serenity's Door on Instagram too.
Oh,
yes, indeed. So they pushing the movement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, we want to push the movement.
Yes,
so
yes. And I love what I do with the passion. So that's why you don't see me crying, because I'm so busy trying to help other people. But if crying is going to help, getting someone out of an abusive situation, I'll cry, do whatever. I just want to keep, our women safe. Men too, but I want to keep our women and babies safe.
Yeah, I'm a recommend B, because I think he's getting abused.
Hey man. Yes, man. Thank you all for joining us again with another edition of the Men's Corner. We want to thank our guest, Ms.Pamela Hawk, Serenity's Door. Thank you so much. Serenitysdoor.org. Yes, indeed. So thank you so much, Queen.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. We'll see you next time.
Yes. That was awesome.